Get him, get him.
Oh my God!
Calm down. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Oh! Yeah! Yeah, dude!
Dude.
6 pounds, 11 ounces. Oh,
Oh my. Limp. That's what I've been waiting for all day.
that's over 6.
True. And that one's.
Oh, here he goes.
Go. Good.
That's a big fish.
Full hand on tail. Yeah, it looks sick. Good to go.
Look how broad that thing is.
I wonder if that was the one that followed me in.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Holy sh! God. What a beast.
Oh wow. That might be a 4. That might be a 4.
Yeah, it's a 4. You guys show that off too. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Holy. Oop.
Another good one.
Holy sh! What the? Is that another 6?
Could be.
It's the second giant of the day, proving that point. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yes!
Big baits, big fish. There we go. 5 pounds, 6 ounces. Beauty! Dude, I'm not even joking. It happened again.
You kidding me?
Nope.
Is it big?
Oh! That's strong.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
That's a fat fish, dude.
4.
Holy. Dude. Holy hell, that's long.
Yeah, it is.
5, 4, 6. What?
Yeah. It's rough.
Got him. Get in here, you. There's another 6. You. That's a big fish.
6'10". Woo-hoo-hoo. Good little fatty.
Remove, add. Howdy. How's everybody doing tonight?
Holler.
We got some fun stuff to talk about. And as you can see by the table, we are prepared. We brought out absolutely everything jerkbaits and jigs related to cover not only current conditions for late summer fishing, but also going into that kind of fall transition, which, I was thinking about it as I was making the video, getting ready, getting the title, and I was like, is it too early to be talking about that? No, it's New England, and September starts this weekend. So no, it's not too early to start talking about the fall transition. It is literally right around the corner.
It's gonna come real fast.
Yeah.
Real fast. I mean, we've already started to kind of experience it with that, we'll call it the false fall over the last week and a half, where, honestly, it's been gorgeous weather. Really nice, cool mornings in the 50s. Kind of flipped back to normal weather. It was 70 something when I woke up this morning and felt great.
Today.
Windows down, driving in. I was like, yeah. And then I went out at 10 o'clock. I was like, oh God, it's hot.
It's back.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, it's definitely wonderful. But my body was already like, yeah, 70-degree weather. We've been waiting for this all year. And it's a very, very narrow window of that.
About 8 to 9.
Yeah. Dude, we've talked about this a lot too, where I think, if memory serves correct, this is the 5th consecutive season where that late winter, early spring weather pattern hit middle to end of March and just lingered in that high 40s to high 50s window. And it was just cool and raw and overcast until the first week of May. And then
Summer.
it jumped to 90 and it's been hotter and humid than hell ever since.
Yeah, it's nice.
Leaves were changing in the St. Lawrence 2 weeks ago. Falls around the corner. See, there you go.
Wow.
Yes, Daryl, Whistle Pig. This is what is on the menu for tonight. It's mostly keto friendly. I started keto again, so a healthy dollop for my friend.
Dude, I weighed myself the other day.
And a healthy dollop for myself. I gave Andrew the fancy glass. Oh, it is potent. It is delicious. Not cheap, but as this is what
It's not cheap.
no, it wasn't. But as this is the second to last stream for Andrew, and I'm only because I'm on keto, I'm trying to keep it to once a week. I went all out for this one. Okay, I didn't go quite all out. They had the 12-year batch. It was $150 a bottle. My wife would have killed me. So
It's $100.
we settled.
Mostly.
$60 more for 2 years.
Yeah, but
The hell
so
is
I've
that?
had it. I went when we were on vacation most recently up in the mountains. they had a bunch of whiskeys and ryes and bourbons, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna try everything. And I had the 12 here.
Like, this one's freaking awesome.
1 ounce was $38.
Oh, yeah.
I was on vacation.
Jesus.
My 1 ounce of that was more expensive than my meal.
Jesus. It's like a $350 bottle.
Yeah, well, you know how much they upcharge all that crap anyway. It's always like a 500% markup.
True. One bottle of whiskey is $15,000.
Oh my god, that's good. Did you take a whiff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it smells good.
I can tell you it's good. Anyway, we're here to talk about jerk baits and everything else. There's one thing that my buddy forgot to do, and there it is. I got it. It's up. I want to put that there. So before we get started, who we have in the chat? Let's do that first. Gordy, Dan, Mike, Mark, Little Rich, Alec, Chris Curtis, and Daryl, Kevin, David, Ray. Hey, buddy. Make sure. Maverick, Sean. I think I got everybody.
Who's Maverick?
Maverick, you know, like Iceman.
I know that Maverick. Oh, that guy's name is Maverick. I thought you were pointing at somebody else who said Maverick. Like, you got a nickname for that guy?
Hey guys, someone is stealing your cars out of the driveway as Mark steals those jerk baits. Yes, Dan, I'm actually going to drink Whistle Pig now. I can't drink beer anymore, so.
Yeah, beer, dude.
Oh, you mean
Messed up my stomach.
Because of the, yeah.
Ate
But I can drink hard liquor.
4 ears of corn yesterday, last night.
What'd you eat?
You ate 4 ears of corn?
Yes.
Jesus.
And 2 big bacon burgers.
Andrew.
Your poor toilet.
How do you not? Yeah. How do you not weigh
it was at
300
work.
pounds?
It wasn't my toilet.
A going away present?
Sounded like a full auto 22. Big brown bus with yellow windows.
Who's dumping a bag of pennies into the toilet?
God.
Chris Curtis, I have a question for you. Shoot, let's hear it. One more thing. I thought you meant background. That makes much sense. Oh, it's okay, Chris. It's fine. No worries. So before we get truly started, for anybody that shared the stream on Facebook or Instagram, by all means, for those that have done that, as always, I greatly appreciate it. It helps immensely. Whether you're watching here on YouTube or on Facebook, either one, everything's coming through the same. But please do us a favor, leave a like on it. It really, really helps with this just continuing to grow. I've said it a million times, but I haven't said it recently. The number one best way for anything to grow is just through community involvement, you know, just word of mouth. And the more that you guys do that, the more that we grow. Like, that is by far and large the best method for driving growth for the channel. So for those that are doing that, whether it's for the channel or, you know, anything we post on Facebook or Instagram, like whatever, anytime it gets shared, like, the growth is there. So we truly appreciate everybody that does that effort. So while you're here, please leave a like on it. And if you're coming back and watch this after the fact, when it's no longer live, but up on the channel or on Facebook, go ahead, leave a comment, leave a like. I literally respond to every single comment, unless it's, where is this lake? I never answer those. And if if it's a place that, like Winnie, I've already answered it in the video title. Otherwise, I'm not going to answer it. Let's do a quick recap of the weekend, because I actually have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to condense it to like 2 minutes. But Sunday, well, no, you went out Saturday, so you got out first. So your report's first.
No, I went Sunday.
You did go Sunday.
I ended up going Sunday.
You son of a...
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about this, and I was like, let's do Sunday. You're like, I can't, I only got Saturday.
Yeah, but I only had 4 hours.
All right,
So
fair enough.
I wouldn't have been able to do what
We
you
fished
wanted to
twice
do.
that.
Right. Yeah. So
It's a short day.
Sunday I went out. Sunday was a good day for me. I'm trying to think back exactly what I did. Okay, I remember now. I went to the place that we said.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I had a interesting day. I feel like Andrew. I went with other Andrew,
Yes.
and we were talking about like what the most satisfying thing is when we're fishing. And for us, it's like, I actually talked about this last week, when you're struggling and then you figure something out and then you're proven right by the fish.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened on Sunday, where we went out and the weather has been weird. It was cool in the morning, and it was like, I'm going to check shallow. And we spent a good amount of time fishing shallow, and I was throwing a glide bait and stuff like that.
Sick.
I did. Yeah. And nothing. Like, we got like a couple like little tiny guys up shallow, but like nothing. So through process of elimination, it was like, well, they're not shallow, so let's just keep going deeper until we run into them. So we went out to a couple deeper spots, and that's true. My shirt is boring this week. I apologize. I'll do better.
It's flashy.
It's a little, yeah, I got little stripes right here. But anyway, so we started to look deeper just through process of elimination, moved out to some rock piles and caught a couple fish, and it was like, oh, maybe they're deep, or maybe it was just a spot. So like checked another couple shallow spots and nothing, and it was like, we're not even going to make another cast shallow. We're just going to say like all of the information that we have shows that they're deep. So we're going to stick to deep water, and we just hit a few spots that kind of aligned with the same type of structure as to where we ran into those few bass, and we ended up catching, I don't remember what it was, 16 or 17 or 18 or something like that.
Yep.
Nothing huge, no 4 or 5 pounders, but a lot of like 2.5, 2 3/4, like the typical. We got a couple that were probably 3, but it was just like, it was satisfying to go from nothing or like 1 or 2 little tiny fish to being like, oh, as soon as I get on the right stuff, it was like every 2 or 3 casts we would get one, and it was like starting off deep cranking, like dragging deep crankbaits over rock piles and boulders, and when they would stop chasing that or stop hitting that, then it was just slow drop shot, like pitching it down on the edges of those things, hopping it a few times, and if there was nothing, just pitch again.
Yep.
Just doing that, and like every 2 or 3 casts, one of us would hook into one.
If you went to where I think you went, that
I
sounds
did.
like a lot of fun.
It's a place where,
The glide bait bite.
Yeah, glide bait bite spot.
Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. And all that, like, so we caught, I know like 18 fish or whatever, doesn't sound like a lot, but it was like 2 hours of nothing, and then like an hour and a half of cramming in 18 fish. So like, it was cool.
That's awesome.
So I will expand on that before I have Andrew talk about how we did Sunday. But so for those that don't know, I don't even think I've told anybody about this yet. I'm the assistant coach for the Sauhegan High School bass fishing team this year. So I got back into it. Jake Angulis, who we've had on the show at least once, but I want to say twice, big time kayak guy, hell of a stick. And he's been the coach for the last several years. He asked me to come on board this year to help out. And I was like, you know what? I actually can. It'll work around my tournament schedule and it won't be an issue anywhere. So jumped on, and I've already had 3 tryouts with the kids so far. So yesterday was another tryout, and took them to a local spot. And it was kind of slow to start. We bounced around a bunch, and we went, I mean, I told you where I went.
Did you tell me?
No, I don't think I did. It's
The juice bites there at sunset.
That doesn't narrow it down at all.
the pond in which we do not speak, with 4-pound boulder. And it's got a giant tombstone flat.
The ramp sucks.
Okay. Okay.
So we got out there, and there's 2 other boats out there. One was a bass boat guy, and like he was literally fishing everything that I wanted to at this, like we were almost side by side the whole time. Not in the same spot, but adjacent spots. So like he had the same exact pattern of how he would how I would tackle it. So after the first 3 moves, I was like, you know what? We're gonna run all the way down here before anybody else does. There's that new patch of grass out in the middle. Dude, the one kid didn't have a fish. Pulled up to it, gave him my Senko rod. I was like, just throw it at the edge so you catch a fish. And second cast, he caught one about 3 pounds.
Nice.
And then 3 or 4 casts after that, he got another 3-pounder. And I was like, good. Okay, now all the kids had a fish in the boat except for me. This is where your point comes in of just trying to figure it out. But then the moment you figure it out, the fish tell you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I was grinding a big swim bait because I have not caught one yet this year, and it was really bothering me. And I was throwing my big 7-inch Defcon, which runs about 3 feet deep. And dude, it stopped dead. And I set the hook and it didn't move. And I thought I had a donkey on. It was like 1.5 pounds. And it ate the front treble when I set the hook. The rear treble grabbed its belly and foul hooked it, and it came inside. So but between what the kids were catching and then that, I'm like, you know what? A jackhammer really should work. So I tried it earlier in a different spot, nothing. I picked it back up, and it was just a 1/2 ounce all green pumpkin jackhammer, but it's the new one, the Evo, I think is what it is, the slightly cheaper version.
Yeah.
But
I haven't tried those yet.
they're good. It's literally the same as a normal jackhammer, in my opinion. And I mean, I like it. It works well. It vibrates easily and quickly, the same as a true jackhammer from Evergreen. And so, Chris, I saw your question. I will get to it. I highlighted it. I promise I'll get to it. So I picked that back up. And 3 casts after I caught that big swim bait fish, it stops dead. I hooked I don't know, maybe another 1.5 pounds. And then the next cast, I caught another about the same size. And then my third cast on the fall, I cast out, I went to do something. I maybe was pulling up my sleeve a little bit, And I went to go reel, and the rod just started loading up, and it was only like a pound, but 3 consecutive casts right in a row.
Pretty good.
As we're heading back into the ramps, we had to call it quits. We had to be on the road for 7:30, and then I caught 3 more in the span of like 5 minutes after that. So 6 fish in the span of like 7 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like,
that proves your point.
proves my point.
Yeah.
And Andrew and I have talked about that too many times. Like, we'll go out there and have a slow day, and it's like, that's okay. We'll just wait for the last hour of sunlight. We'll go crush them on jackhammers on that flat. And it is the most consistent thing you can do out there.
That or square bills.
Interesting.
Yeah, or square bills. With the
You catch
vegetation,
a lot more crappie using square bills, though.
yeah, you really got to get on the outside edge now because that vegetation up on the shallow flat is thicker than ever, and the water's down about a foot. So it was really
Yeah, you
tough.
need to
Like,
move
even get my
way out.
shallow diving swim bait to work through that. But then Saturday was it? No, I didn't take anybody out Saturday. Did I take kids out Saturday? Yeah, I did. And also, I coached Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday since the last show. And Friday was okay. Took them to another local spot, and we were just like targeting practicing live scope, like testing their accuracy and everything, and it looked good. And then we went Saturday. We went up to Opeechee in Laconia. Opeechee, I forget how to pronounce it.
Opeechee.
And I got both kids. One with a Ned rig and one with the open water sniper with a Kitech, which we'll talk about that more for tonight. And both of them on live scope, seen a big mark, had them tossed down on it, and both kids got a 3 3/4 smallie, which was both their PBs.
Nice.
Pretty awesome. So the one thing that was consistent from everything I saw before Andrew talks about Sunday and is, man, that really, really deep bite has been eluding me. And I don't know if it's just me, but I've talked to quite a few other people, and most of them have said the same thing. That like 15 to 25 foot depth in a lake that you have like a lot of water in, we'll say 40 feet or deeper, that 15 to 25 foot range has been like money, has been the most consistent depth everywhere we've been. It is nuts. I have a lot of theories on it. There's only so much I'm willing to talk about because a lot of that plays into what I have planned for tournaments for at least the next 2, but that's what we're finding. So please bear that in mind as you go out. Then Sunday,
We took the boys out. We took his oldest son, Jared, out, and my nephew out to, where did we go? Maine.
yep,
We went up to
Southern Maine.
Southern Maine. And we did pretty good. The bite was extremely slow. We were catching them on jigs on the bottom in anywhere from like 4 feet to 25, 26 feet. Sean started the day off with a 4.3. And then I followed it up about an hour later with a 4.3.
Was it the same fish?
We're
It had
We
a
think-
derpy lip
on the right side. Yeah,
on the right side. His had a derpy lip on the right
No
side.
way.
His weighed 4.3. Mine weighed 4.3.
There's no way you caught the same fish.
And it
Dude,
was
we're-
like 200 yards apart.
We're pretty sure it's
That's
the
a
same
really
fish.
stupid fish.
Like,
Then.
you got it in,
Yeah.
and I was like, hell yeah, it's a good fish. And then he turned, and I was like, no way. It had the same derpy right lip.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
So I don't know.
It's funny because I think that's the first time ever that we've caught 20 pounds, 0 ounces. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't happen often.
No,
You get
no, it doesn't.
20.00 ounces.
mind you, on 9 fish, I caught, is either 9 or 10. I caught 5. I can't remember if you caught 3 or 4.
I don't remember. I think I caught 4, but I was also letting the boys fish a lot.
Yeah, we both did that a lot. So there was a lot of fish we left behind.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. And but it was important to let the kids do it, and it was great watching the two of them get up front on the bow, take over the trolling motor, and then I have a separate turret for my live scope, and they were just both like doing it, and they were both casting right at them, and
Did they catch anything?
not on that. And my son was pissed at the end of the day. He was like, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, bud. He did not catch anything. I think he got 1 bite. Jackson caught 1. Ended up calling out a 3-pounder I had in there. That was a 3-pound 3 ounce,
Yep.
which
Oh my God, the way he caught it.
oh
He was so there's an airplane that lands on the lake, takes off, whatever. Last time I was there, the guy did the same thing, and he was like ripping across the lake, about to take off, and my nephew's sitting there with his phone recording it, and he goes by, and the rod just goes the other way. He had that on Snapchat. He has a video of it.
I was recording that day, like all around the boat. I put everything on my computer, but I haven't had a chance to go back and actually watch it to see how good it looked.
Dude, it's so funny. Oh my God. He's like, ah! I'm like, that's a fish, dude. Drop the phone. But he got that one in like probably 4 feet of water.
Yeah, that was that day was weird because it was the only day that really kind of the vast majority of the fish 15 to 25 feet. And most of them were 15 to 20. And then I had one at the end of the day that was another 4. I forget what. It wasn't the 4.5. I think it was a
that was only
314.
like
The
8 to 10
4-3 for a
feet.
third time.
No, that was when it was out deep. It was the very last one that I caught at the end of the day that got us to 20 pounds even. It was 3 pounds 14 ounces, and it was in like 35 feet. And I remember seeing like the vertical blob, and I was like,
Oh,
screw it.
yeah,
I pitched out my jig at it.
yeah,
You were
yeah.
watching it on the back graph,
Yep.
and the vertical blob went straight and then vertical again. And I'm just holding my line taut, and I just feel tick, 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 tick. I'm like, oh, that feels weird. Swing, and then the rod doubled over. I'm like, okay, that's more like it.
Oh, that's nice. I remember that feeling.
But unfortunately, it was a lot of live scope again on that one. I mean, tons and tons and tons of fan casting around, but so we put 10 fish in the boat after like 9 hours of fishing between 4 people. And granted, as Andrew pointed out, there was a lot of time that we spent letting the kids fish and trying to put them on fish. But even just like blind fan casting around when we could literally see fish everywhere, you had to put it on their nose for them to even look at it. If you cast within 5 feet of it, the vast majority of them just turn away or they wouldn't come towards it.
Yeah, you had to.
Yep. And
And then they go down and
there's been a couple, and then even then it still took a while because I forget how many baits we went through before we found like the magic color combination that worked. And it was 2 different colors. One that Andrew was throwing, that was like a stealth craw with a black trailer. And then, and then I was throwing dirt bag with a dark green pumpkin for the trailer. So, I mean, essentially kind of the same color schemes, just flip-flopped for which the side the darker color was on. But anyway, so it was good. And I'll tell you guys, again, 15 to 25 feet. So for anybody going out the next few days or between now and next week, there's your fishing report. Hopefully it serves you well. And we've already burned 22 minutes, so let's get into the topic at hand, which is...
What's the question?
So his question, I have it. We want to know, what is your favorite color is lost about me? I'm assuming you're asking favorite color about both jerkbait and jig. We will cover that. That is going to be a big focal point of what we're going to discuss for not only, as the title implies, for that fall transition fishing, but especially right now, too, we're in that late summer pattern, and then going into the fall transition. Because, in my opinion, this is the time of the year when the color preference of the fish seems to be most aggressive in the shortest window. Where in the spring, it's kind of long for going from, like, really, really dark colors to more natural colors, like something like the Stealth Craw from Beast Coast, where it's a bit of green, pumpkin, and black and brown, but it's mostly like a green color, to then just like pure green pumpkin, maybe working a little orange here and there. But like those windows for any one of those colors, when you go from like really dark to kind of dark to very natural, you know, they're like a month plus long. Versus coming into the fall, I find that those windows of their color preference shift pretty hard, and they're much more narrow. So you really got to be on top of your game for being open-minded and trying a bunch of different colors, not just jerkbait, but especially jig. So let's talk about what the hell is happening right now. And let's talk about jerkbait, because we just talked about a bunch of jigs already. So I think, what are your opinions? Talk everything jerkbaits, then talk everything jigs?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, you got like 76 freaking jerkbaits out here. Might as well talk about
We
it.
have
Bases covered. We talk a lot about mega bass, and I know not everybody can go out and buy a ton of $25 jerkbaits. So I made it a point, and so did Dennis, to bring out non-mega bass jerkbaits, even though they are inferior. There's actually a lot of non-mega bass jerkbaits that are phenomenal, especially this time of the year. Mega bass really proves its value very early in the spring when you want something to truly suspend, like consistently, no tinkering with it. Right now, this time of the year, where the water's still a little bit warmer, you have a lot more leeway in what you can do and what brands and models will work for you. So that's why we really wanted to kind of show a whole bunch of different options. Primary focus, though, is color. At least for me, from my perspective. I don't play around with depth too much. I have spoken too much. I want you guys to lead the conversation for right now, late summer, your go-to jerkbaits and why.
Well, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first. if you
Okay.
want.
So the difference. So somebody asked last week when we were figuring out what to do this week, like what the difference is between fishing a jerkbait in the spring and fishing a jerkbait in the fall, and color is a huge part of it. Depth can be a huge part of it. So basically right now, the fish, at some point, once you start getting the cold nights, the fish school up and they really get on bait fish. And that is the biggest difference between now and in the spring. In the spring, they're eating bait fish too, but they're also eating crawfish and some other stuff, bugs and stuff like that that are in the water. Now is the time of year where they go where the bait fish go. So if the bait fish are in a foot of water, they'll go in a foot of water. If the bait fish are in 50 feet of water, they're going to go in 50 feet of water. The reason why color is so important is that those fish this time of year get so keyed in on bait fish that they really don't want anything that doesn't look like what they're eating. So that kind of goes against like what I would say if I was talking about this in the spring, because in the spring you saw my jerkbait boxes. I have like entire sections of the box that are filled with clown color. Like clown color is my favorite jerkbait color because I like to trigger bites. I do not really use things like that this time of year in the fall, because this time of year I'm not necessarily, one, you don't really need to do it. Like in the spring, you're trying to, or at least I'm trying to trigger a fish into biting,
you really need to entice them to
right,
bite.
exactly. I'm trying to like force something to bite when it doesn't really want to bite.
Is that clown color?
Yeah, that's clown color. It's an ugly one, but it is
Well,
one.
whatever. You know, they're sacrificial ones for Champlain with pike. I can get up.
But so in the spring, that's kind of what you want to think about is you're trying to get a fish that doesn't really want to bite because you're in March and the water is 39 degrees or whatever. In the fall, those fish want to bite. They're there because they're biting. They're with those bait fish because they're eating those bait fish. So you want to use something that looks like those bait fish. And if you get something that looks like those bait fish, you do not need to trigger them. They will bite. So
Give me a good example and show up.
depending on where you are. So that's a good one.
This is so scientifically high tech.
Yeah, give him. Yeah. give him-
Donate now for a second camera so I don't have to stand here. That's a good example. Ooh. Yes. Oh my. That's good. Keep talking.
All right. So you'll see with all these colors that there's really nothing crazy about them. They're natural. They look like perch or they look like shad, or in our case up here, alewife or smelt.
Golden shiners.
Right, golden shiners. They look like what the bait fish are here. There's nothing crazy about any of these. So I think that is the biggest difference. The other thing that I would say, there you go, perch.
How are we not going to talk about the perch?
The other thing that I would say is that this time of year there's a lot of small bait fish, because when bass spawn, or when all fish spawn, it's usually in the spring. Those fish are born. Perch, exactly. Those fish now are very small.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're called young of the year.
Young of the year. Year of the young.
Year of the young was what I called it the first time because I am dumb.
That's true. But so yeah, I would say there is a time point later in the year, probably as you get closer to ice in, where those bigger baits come into play again. And we saw that last year, and we're talking about that before, or 2 years ago. But for the most part, for most of the fall, I'm typically going baitfish color. I'm typically leaning towards smaller sized jerk baits, things that match the size as closely as possible of what the fish are eating. Yeah, I think that's it. Andrew,
What am I going to say?
jerk baits.
Jerk baits.
Well, you know what you can do to expand upon that too, which I know you can speak to very well because you really like trying a bunch of different things, is different brands, different models, and then go into cadence.
Yeah. Cadence in the spring, I typically like to go a lot slower than the fall. In the fall, they're feeding hard. They're trying to get ready for the winter. They're just feeding like crazy. They're chasing around bait, and that's why I like to pick up
I think he means this one.
this one. This is a bigger Vision 110 LBO. It's not a 110 at all. Actually, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's
110
110
LBO.
max
Yeah.
LBO. I like to throw that or just a regular Vision 110 or the Berkeley Cutter 90. Yeah, it's a
Is that
90.
the cutter? Did
The
I
Cutter
bring out any
90.
stuff?
I don't know.
I don't think I.
The Berkeley Cutter 90 specifically because it floats. And you got to work it fast to keep it down. There you don't really, it doesn't really suspend that great. I mean, any of the Vision 110s are going to suspend great. So in the springtime, the Vision 110 or the Rapala X-Wrap with the little feather on the back in the spring, that is like my go-to in the spring. I don't think we have one out, but
No.
No, because that's the spring one.
that is pretty much my lineup for the spring and fall bite. I mean, the spring bite is awesome because you can literally sit there, twitch. I like to fish slow. I was pretty much born to fish slow. So the longer I wait, the more comfortable I feel. And they'll almost rip the rod out of your hand when you're just sitting there waiting because you kind of forget about it. You're just kind of lost in the sauce and they're twitch, wait. And you won't even notice it until you're just like kind of mindless, like doing the same thing over and over. You forget, and then all of a sudden it's like thunk.
Yeah, they'll surprise you.
But in the fall, I've had really, really good success with like practically not even stopping the twitch, like consistent, like maybe 8 to 10 twitches, pause for about a second or two, and then continue that.
Yep, I agree. I think that also has to do with the fact that, like what I said, the fish want to eat now.
Right.
They're there because they're eating. They're
Right.
with the bait fish because they're eating them. So you don't really need to convince them.
Right. They see it and they're like, oh, okay, I want to eat that. You just have to get the right color
Yeah.
to be able to actually get that bite to really fire off. You'll still catch fish on other colors, but once you find that right color, then the bite will really start to fire off.
Yep.
So we were talking about that before the show started, as we're sitting here laying out all these.
Thanks, Jamie.
Dennis, I saw that from Jamie. Andrew's slow. I mean, he's born to fish slow. Which one did you pick up that you caught the 5 on when we were out there 2 years ago?
Okay.
So it's a mega bass, but
So this is a Megabass Edo Shiner. So
what color is that?
Galaxy Shiner. But the thing to add about this is the reason why we bring that up is if we're talking. So I know that this was intended to be fall transition, but as you go later in fall, things do kind of change. So I brought some of those out just to talk about it since we're talking about jerkbaits in the fall. So everything that I said and that we said about fishing little small jerkbaits and fishing them really fast earlier in the fall, that all changes as you go into really late fall. As you go into really late fall, what I have experienced, I don't know that this is true, but what I have experienced in my fishing is that it seems like the fish want a larger singular meal rather than eating a bunch of small little things.
Right.
And I feel like there is a certain time where that's when that magical like late fall big bite bait or big bait bite happens again. And the same, you can do the same thing with jerkbaits. Like that is when I will go to an Edo Shiner, or I'll go to, this is an OSP, I don't remember, Rudra, I think it's called, or the Megabass Kanata, like the really, really big one. That's when you go to things like that, when the fish are only going to eat once every 3 days or once every week or something like that. But when they eat, they want something big because it has to sustain them for that long.
Side note, you could also throw a glide and work it the same way as a jerkbait.
That's
Back
true.
to jerkbaits.
That's true. That's true.
No, extremely important point, because when we had Oliver on several times, he brought that up. When it comes to glide fishing, for those that want to get into that, if you have confidence in fishing a jerkbait, you should be able to go out and throw a glide confidently. He made a really good point of that. For it, when he has clients that come out and they want to fish a big glide for the first time, first question he asked, how are you with a jerkbait? And if the answer is not good, then he said, we're going to go out and throw a jerkbait until you feel good about that. And that's going to literally do the same thing with a glide. And it's just a lot easier to get more bites in the jerkbait, makes that transition to a glide a lot easier. So just keep that in mind. You should go back and watch one of those too if you're interested in more big bait fishing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what your last point was, because I didn't want to. I jumped in with that, but it was
We talked about catching the 5-pounder on this, and that in the end of the fall you use larger baits.
Yep. So for me, I wholeheartedly agree with all of them, and I was trying to kind of multitask between stream, the chat, and then showing bait, so I only half heard everything. So I apologize if I repeat anything. For me right now, if I'm throwing a jerkbait, I go very, very different, right? For this late summer, the water's still really warm, and all those fish are usually out a lot deeper. But right now, again, what we said at the beginning, the majority of them seem to be in that 15 to 25 foot range. So I actually really like throwing Megabass 110+2 or any jerkbait that'll get down like 15, 16 feet without a ton of effort, and throw that confidently on 10 or 12 pound fluoro. And I'll be able to get that down. And it's just a little bit easier for those fish that are sitting down closer to the bottom in 25, 20 feet to come up and get it. Smallmouth are very opportunistic. And I mean, even when you're Damiki fishing this time of the year, and especially we'll say the end of September, going into really that fall transition, I've caught tons of fish where I've dropped that bait down only 25 feet, and those fish have come up from 55 to hit that. And sometimes it only gets down 10 feet, and those fish are already coming up. And I know guys that are out there catching smallmouth on top water over the top of like 65 and 70 feet of water. And those fish are probably down 35, 40 feet in a lot of cases. So you don't have to always get it down that deep, but the way I view it, it's a little bit easier when you're fishing out like truly deep water, like a glacial lake, for example. So if I'm confident a jerkbait's going to get bit right now, it's a 1-2 punch. I've got something shallow. If I've got confidence that up, we'll say 15 feet of water or less. But if I'm out there and I'm seeing fish in 25 feet or deeper, then I will go to a 110+2. And I like to feed them a meal. I don't like to go to the smaller sizes. The juniors, like the +1 junior, is also phenomenal bait. And that really goes in hand with what Dennis did say towards into that fall transition, where the young of the year, I got it right that time.
Got it right. Yeah.
Will, really push up, and now you're matching the hatch. So always come down to it's match the hatch. That's color and size. But right now, it's a mixed bag. Like literally everything we've been catching for the last like 2 or 3 weeks has either been on a really big jig or a teeny tiny little finesse thing, and nothing in between. So I approach my jerkbait fishing the same. As for colors, I'm always going to stick with yellow perch because they're so just common. It doesn't matter where you go in the greater Northeast or literally anywhere in the northern half of North America, there are yellow perch. You will always find them, and there are always largemouth and smallmouth eating them. So I will always start with a yellow perch, and I'll bounce between, depending on the conditions, something that's just like a perfectly painted one versus one that's more like transparent and like a ghost kind of pattern. Those are my favorite, because to me, it looks a little bit more natural down there versus something that's painted the whole way through and you can't see through it whatsoever. There's no translucency to it. And if that doesn't work, then that's where I start going with really vibrant colors. Not so much right now, this late summer, but into that fall transition, that's where the really vibrant colors I've found, not just from my experience, but other people fishing with me or people I've talked to, the vibrant color becomes much more important, and you find much more success with it. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. Like, hopefully you can kind of get the idea of that from back there. I don't even know what color this is from Megabass. Hang on, we can pick it up a different way. But it's got a like nuclear orange belly. It's a gold shiner on the side, and it's got a black back. This is loud the whole way through, but this is a fall killer color. Andrew has caught a stupid amount of fish, and I'll throw it, not with the same level of confidence, but I'll still have success, but nothing like Andrew has had with literally this jerkbait in my hand. Not just this color, but the one I'm holding. But then when you go to something that's subtly more loud, the one I was asking Dennis about, we were talking about prior to the show, it's that kind of bluegilly color pattern. Andrew showed it just a couple minutes ago, but on the belly, there's a subtle orange on the front half and then this chartreuse on the tail. And we were out fishing a pond. Jerkbait bite was on fire. Andrew and I already been out there 2 weekends in a row, I think. And I forget, I think we caught like 100 fish between those 2 trips. And not a ton.
A couple of years ago.
Oh, good.
Off the boat ramp, through the channel, big rock piles before it drops off deep.
Okay.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. Spooky.
Catch a million fish off that one rock pile.
So then Dennis and I go out, and I forget where Andrew was. He couldn't make it out, and we're throwing jerkbaits, and we were having not as good a success. So Dennis picks up that one, and literally the only difference between what he was throwing and what I was throwing was that chartreuse on the back, and he lit them up, and he caught a 5-pounder. And so I went digging through my box, and I found something remotely close. And honestly, I may have just picked up this one, the Eleggy Bone, which, again, is loud. It's got a big chartreuse stripe on the
That's one of
back,
my favorites.
translucent in the middle, kind of like a pearlish blue purple on the top. And that started panning out a lot better than the various yellow perch I was throwing, and then the bluegill, like a very natural bluegill color I was throwing. Like none of those, not even that orange, black, and gold were panning out. But then just going to like something like a chartreuse, that loud, vibrant color on the back made a difference. Not like his did though, because it was just a subtle. It was a little bit. It made all the difference in the world. Major point going into that fall transition. Size does matter. There's going to be a good window where that smaller one is best, as they pointed out, because you want to go after that bait fish they're typically feeding on when they're all kind of push up from the wherever they hide into the shallows, and you'll see them in the morning. Go to launch your boat, look down around the ramp, and you'll see like hundreds of them running. Then you know, okay, now's a good time to be throwing something of that pattern. Also to key you in on where you should be looking for fish, but I digress. And that kind of should point you in the right direction for what size and maybe color you should be throwing. But then that bite's going to kind of disappear a little bit, then they're going to want a meal. And that's towards, after fall transition, now we're really getting into that fall pattern. But
I think that point too is when the color comes back. Like,
yeah, then it's like much more natural colors.
Well, I think it's opposite. I think when they are chasing the little tiny bait fish is when, at least for me, that's when I throw natural colors that look like the little tiny bait fish. In the fall, late fall, like when we went out and we were catching those fish, that's when I think it's more like early spring, where I'm like, I want to make one fish bite. So I'm going to use something that I think will trigger that fish to bite.
Yeah, and that's where the loud color comes in handy. Even the little subtle, subtle.
Just a little subtle.
Just a wee bit subtle.
That's what I'm missing from my jerkbait collection, where I don't have, color patterns like that, where, I have something with a combination of all those colors, but I don't have something where it's subtle in those changes from one color to the next, which is just a little bit different than, like everything else I have jerkbaits is very run of the mill. It's all standard stuff you can find pretty much anywhere that everybody's always going to stock. Those are not so easy to find colors that not very common. That's what I need to, continue to supplement my jerkbait collection with, which, funny enough, I know you guys have heard me talk about jerkbaits for, until 2 years ago, I struggled with them, where I was just not always confident all the time. And now I'm always confident all the time. And yet I own all these. And they're stocked to the gills, and I've been working on this collection for like 15 years. So it's not really a lot to speak of for that time period, but it's a lot to speak of for someone that until 2 years ago didn't have a ton of confidence in doing that. But to prove how, I guess, to re-emphasize the importance of how good both of these can be. If you can master a jig and master a jerkbait, you are unstoppable from ice out to ice in. Jerkbait is incredibly important in that, because there are going to be days where jig won't work, they'll fire up on a jerkbait, and vice versa. That's why we decided to, really in my mind, back in my head, this is why I wanted to combo these two topics, because they complement each other so well. You can cover the whole water column doing both of these. Is there, I didn't talk about cadence, but you guys did.
Yeah. It's the reverse of the spring. So
correct.
Spring slow.
The warmer the water, the faster you jerk.
Yeah,
and
you jerk. I've said jerk a lot. And so twitch.
Faster you twitch, the colder the water, the longer your pauses. But I think that in the fall, it all depends on the mood of the fish. Like I am wholeheartedly convinced, and this is like the 10th time I've said it, that in the fall they want to eat this time of year. So you don't have to do anything too crazy. Like when we were out that day and I caught the 5-pounder, and like as you get out and the water gets back down into the 40s and into the low 40s and maybe the high 30s, that's when you have to start doing weird things with your cadence and like really long pauses, and then like double tapping it or triple tapping it or something like that, and trying to get one that's looking at it to just like and bite it. That's when I get back into like my early spring cadence of using weird colors and crazy cadence to try to like force something to bite that doesn't really want to bite.
Yep. The only thing I can say to potentially add to that, especially coming from someone like me, again, where for the longest time I could not find the level of confidence in jerkbait that I had in like everything else. In the fall, I find it easier and a little more consistent that you could literally just 1, 2, pause, 1, 2. And more often than not, you will still be successful just using that tempo. But I really like Sean Place's comment, which is why I left it up on the screen there for a second. There's a bunch of others we got to get back through. But in the spring, I put on headphones and go off the beat with pauses. That's actually a great idea. I really like that. Otherwise, I don't like music at all, but I could find that being extremely helpful for someone trying to find their confidence in.
Caitlin had a day, my wife, where she absolutely destroyed me fishing a jerkbait on Champlain, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "I'm jerking it to Yankee Doodle." It's like, I hate that so much. Like,
Yankee Doodle, 1, 2, like that.
I hate it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. Now's the time. There's like I think we got 6 comments that are starred that we're gonna circle back to so we can answer those. And in the meantime, if there's any other questions specific to jerkbaits, anything, whether it's right now into that fall transition or even like truly into fall, ask them now before we get onto the jigs. But I'm gonna go back through and look at some of these starred comments. Chris Curtis, we can finally answer yours. We want to know what your favorite color is. Dude, yellow perch for me, and GP Pro perch, very specifically from Megabass. It is hands down one of my favorite colors, and I think that's that kind of ghosty one. If not, then that ghost version of the GP Pro perch. I can't get enough of it. It's phenomenal. It works freaking everywhere. Andrew can attest to it. Like, I literally tie it on first time we go anywhere with it, except for like very early in the year. Then I typically go with like a black blue. The GP Pro blue would be my second favorite color. Third behind that, boy, something smelty. That, you know what? I really like the Jackal.
Re-range.
Thank you. No, that's not Jackal.
Squad
Re-range.
minnow.
Squad minnow. Thank you. Jackal Squad minnow 95. And I can't remember what it's called, but it's a very, very good imitation of smelt, which have been kind of hard to find this year. But this is one of my first jerkbaits that I ever bought. Lucky Craft, the SP Pointer 100, makes something very similar. It's just a more slender profile than this one. That almost identical in the color scheme. That's my third favorite color. Those are really, really good, and you don't have to get a Megabass one. So Lucky Craft ain't cheap, but it's not expensive like Megabass. Your favorite color?
My number one favorite color is Western Clown in Megabass.
Western Clown. I didn't even seen that. I'm gonna have to look it up.
But I've caught multiple 8-pound largemouth on that, so you can't argue with Western Clown. I would say if I'm on Champlain and I know that the fish are eating alewives, then the best alewife color that I have ever found is a Lucky Craft Pointer 100 in American Shad. It looks exactly like an alewife in every way. So I think those are probably my two.
There you go. Andrew, favorite color?
Mine, pretty much anything that looks like a golden shiner, white perch, or really any sort of bait fish. I mean, it just goes hand in hand, bait fish and bass eating. So
What about that one?
this one, that's a bluegill.
Yeah, I meant to bring that one out because that was another example of like kind of a vibrant color scheme, especially with the actual blue up on the gills. Like that's another good example for
Yeah,
it.
this is more of a fall bite. It's so vibrant and
Yeah.
attracting that it looks ridiculous. It's very, very colorful, but
She's loud.
it's loud and,
Loud.
and I
That's-
like it.
Yep. What I don't remember what color it is that you're holding there, the Megabass one.
I have no idea.
My favorite thing
But
about that
it looks like a golden shiner, white perch.
It's they have a lot of
smelt like
they have a lot of
It
colors that
just
are the same.
looks
That's like
a bait fish.
it's like the same as this.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
it
so this
literally is.
it's Tennessee Shad. That might be like Wakasagi or something. But
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
yeah, they have a lot of similar ones that kind of has the back that almost looks like a yellow perch, but it also kind of looks like a golden shiner. But it also, if you look, it has that little hint of chartreuse right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I like about that because, like as you just said, it can pass for a multitude of different bait fish that are close enough. So that's what I like about that one.
Yeah.
There's your favorite colors there, Chris. Sean Place. Have you tried the Megabass Katana?
Kanata.
Oh, but I want
Kanata.
to.
Yeah.
Kanata.
Yes, they're very good. Yes, I have a few of them. That is a late fall when we were talking about when you go to bigger baits. That is very good in the late fall. You can use it all year, obviously, but that's like a big thing in late fall and early spring.
So I don't have any, and you're telling me I'm gonna have to buy some. I don't have a
Probably.
problem with this.
Yeah, you should do that.
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
actually-
Yeah.
Okay. Good enough.
Use them on Champlain next
Provoke
year.
jerkbait is good. Who the hell makes the Provoke?
I think that's Berkeley. Is that Berkeley?
It might be.
I don't like Berkeley.
Is it 6 cents?
Is it 6 cents? I don't like.
It's
6
one of
cents
those.
either. I don't like anything, so you can't base it. Don't
Dennis
base.
is too bougie.
Don't
for
base
anything
your
that's not
opinion.
super
Don't
expensive.
base your opinion.
6
off
cents.
of me.
I've used those. I like them.
Just like our buddy Dave, any bass addict in the chat. He's also super bougie. Him and Dennis get along very well. They're JDM whores.
I like 6 cents more than Berkeley. I think Berkeley just copies everybody.
Yeah, they do. Andrew Santiago, I like Lucky Craft. Lucky Craft was when I first got into jerkbait fishing. That's what I started filling my tackle box with. Was Lucky Craft. At the time, they were $15 each. Now I think most of them are like $18. Last I looked, last I bought one. It's been a little while. Lucky Craft is phenomenal. The only knock I have against them is their color options are kind of limited, and like their yellow perch. Again, the last time I bought one was probably 2 years ago. I hate their yellow perch. I just can't buy it. As much as I love their jerkbaits, I just cannot buy their yellow perch. It's awful. If they've got a better one since then I should probably look into it. I just haven't needed to replace anything yellow perch like that. And I love the Mega Bass Vision 110 perches, so I kind of don't want to look at anybody else. Jackal Re-Range makes a good one. Actually, I did pull out a Strike King, one of the KVD Strike Kings. That's also phenomenal yellow perch. It's kind of hard to see from back there, but that's a very, very good representation of a northern yellow perch.
The bait is also just different. Like if drop some jerkbait lip knowledge.
This was a jerkbait stream.
Yeah, you're not gonna have time for jigs.
Anyway, no,
And also we like jigs. But like
the jigs are gonna take another half an hour.
the lip on a Lucky Craft is thick or at least on a Lucky Craft
I'll leave that up.
whatever it's called, their main one. What's it called?
The point SP pointer.
Yeah. The Pointer 110 or the Pointer 100. It's like thick, hard plastic. It does not move. So when you jerk a Lucky Craft, it has really wide action. Whereas if you look at a regular Vision 110, the lip is very, very thin, and it almost is thin to the point that it will flex a little bit when you go to twitch it, and that'll give it a lot more subtle action. So like if you so you can see how thick the lip is on that. Andrew,
Bring that with.
I don't have a
What do you want? Well, that one on the end is
those two.
Squad Minnow. It's a 95.
Yeah, but this is the comparison I'm making. So so if you look at the Lucky Craft, that lip is not going to flex at all when you go to jerk it, and that means that the bait is going to move instead of the lip moving. But if you look at the Vision 110, the lip is super, super subtle and super narrow, and that lip, you won't tell, but this is also why the lips break sometimes on 110s, but that lip will actually move a little bit when you go to jerk it, and it kind of absorbs some of that movement, and it makes the bait move a lot more subtly. So if you move a Vision 110 too hard, it'll just roll over and flip on its side, and it won't really look right, where you can't really do that with a Lucky Craft. But there are certain times where you need to move subtly, and certain times where you need to move it really erratically.
Yeah, I actually remember a video, God, I watched years and years ago from Tactical Bassin, when I was trying to find literally anything I could to give me more confidence in fishing jerkbaits, and they specifically tackled that subject. A bunch of different brands and models of jerkbaits, but the difference in the lips and how that impacted how you really had to work them in order to get the most out of that action. And I found that very informative. That was a good one. That is something that I wish I had thought to do, but I'm not that smart. Maverick, I do like the Stunner. The Stunner is good. It's not good in the spring unless you're lucky enough to find like a really active bite where you don't have to worry about trying to keep it suspended. But otherwise, for its money, it's great. Justin, on calm days, fishing shallow or on highly pressured lakes, have you guys tried a silent model jerkbait? I cannot answer this, but I know you can. I guarantee you can.
Yeah, it's the same thing as a crankbait. It's you got to play with how subtle or how much noise you're making and how much flash you have. So I would say that isn't the first thing that I would change. The first thing I would change would be how flashy the jerkbait is. But that is definitely something. If it's very quiet, you can go to something that's silent, and it can help.
I can't add anything to that, so I'm going to let it go from there. I will pin this really quick. Dennis, where did you catch the 8-pound largemouths?
In the water.
Were they both in New Hampshire or just one?
No, the other one was in Vermont.
I've caught, I don't know. I've caught 1 8-pounder at Champlain. I caught one in Maine. I caught one in New Hampshire. I caught another one in New Hampshire that was 7.89, so not quite 8. So 1.8 of them were in New
I
Hampshire.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. I know where that one was too. Oh God, there are jigs next week. Honestly, at this rate, we might have to put jigs to next
just
week.
do jigs next week.
Okay. I'm gonna. You guys tell me. Are we gonna go for another half an hour to talk about jigs, or do we just leave that for next week? Because we could literally do an hour on that. And that would be Andrew's...
my good last stream.
That would be a good
on
last
jigs.
stream for Andrew.
All right,
Jigs,
we're gonna alter the
with
video
jigs.
title. We're gonna do jigs next week, so
All
we
right,
can
jigs
continue
next
to ask or answer a ton of questions on jerkbait stuff. I'm going through and just trying to. Chris, I don't even know where the hell I left off. If you can find anything else that I haven't already started, go for it, man. I'm gonna start removing some that we already covered to remove confusion. There we go, Daryl. Yeah, so this is actually a really good one. This is gonna take quite a few minutes here. Gear, rod, reel, line. I want to go first because I want to.
You're gonna cover it, so.
No, I doubt it because I feel like there's too many different jerkbaits, right? I mean, if you go just looking at Megabass between the Vision 110, the 110 plus 1, the 110 plus 2, like there's a lot of overlap between the 110 and the 110 plus 1, but the 110 plus 2 is just heavy enough that I feel like I totally need it, like a second different rod to be able to confidently throw that thing as far as I want, but still make the most out of it and, you know, get that nice parabolic bend out of the rod that I want for these teeny tiny little jerkbait hooks. I'm not going to rip it out of the fish, but I want to have just a little bit more backbone to be able to confidently huck that, because there's a significant weight difference between a 110 and the 110 plus 2. So, oh boy, what the hell am I using? I'm still, the only loose rod that I have left that I'm still using, aside from 2 of my Super Duty rods, is, oh man, they don't even make it anymore. It was one of the Speed Stick Custom Pro, Custom Pro Speed Sticks. And at the time, 3 years ago, it was like, that was their top of the line rod. They're great. I love them. It's a full cork. It is a 7-foot medium, moderate fast. It's definitely light. It's supple, but for anything that's like a 110 plus 1 or smaller, lighter, it's great. I mean, I can bomb a 110 on that. And that is paired with a Lose Custom Pro reel, I think is what it was. You know what? I'm going to have to go back and look at that for a second because I want to make sure I get it right. It's a $200 casting reel. I absolutely love it. It has been phenomenal for me since I bought it. And reels, casting. I think I've had it for 3 years now, and I literally only use it for jerkbaits and cranking. And for $200, like I love it. I cannot say enough good things about it. The Tournament Pro is what it was. The Tournament Pro bait cast reel. Again, $200. It's awesome for the price for what it is. I mean, $200 is not exactly a chump change either for reels. But the thing's buttery smooth. I like it for light duty stuff. It's a light reel. It doesn't feel like it's gonna hold up. Like I wouldn't go out there chucking spinnerbaits on it. It feels a little too light duty for that. The BB1 is much better for that, but yeah, yep, right there on the tip of my tongue. The Tournament Pro from Lose, 6.3 to 1. And then for my line, Defiant soft casting 9.6 pound fluoro. I really, really like that line all year except for in the cold water. Depending upon what model jerkbait I'm throwing, if it's like a regular 110, I can get away with just that line, like a 9.6 pound. There are days that I feel like I need to go a little bit lighter to keep the jerkbait from sinking. Then there are some days that if it's floating a little bit, I will go to a 12, like I'll pick up one of my jig rods. I have one that has the Defiant 11.6 pound heavy cover fluorocarbon, and I'll throw a jerkbait on that. And if it was lightly floating, that'll keep it suspended. And there's been a couple of days too, actually a lot of days this spring, where a couple of my favorite color jerkbaits for some reason from Megabass were floating like crazy. And there were ones, I mean, they were old ones. I've had these for a while.
I sabotaged them.
You probably did.
Yeah.
And on those, I picked up my other jig rod that had 15.5 pound heavy cover line from Defiant. And that got those to suspend perfectly. So it sounds a little strange to be throwing such heavy line, but it all depends on the time of the year. Right now, if I'm throwing any of the 110 plus 1, I'm going to go over about 10 pound fluorocarbon. If I'm going to the 110 plus 2, I might upsize to the 12 pound. Something really, really close to that. Either side of it, 11 to 13 pounds, and then we'll say 8 to 11 pound for the smaller jerk baits. But you know, the big thing is having that moderate to moderate fast action on the rod, where it's got like the full sweep of parabolic bed in it. So you literally just kind of twisted the hips to load up on those, especially the megabass hooks where they're so tiny. It doesn't take much to rip them out. You want something that has a lot of give. And even with the drag back down, you still need everything to help you out. You know, especially, I mean, I know I've caught a couple of big largemouth and especially big smallmouth where I had 1 point of one treble hook in. And because I had my drag right and, you know, such a good soft supple rod, never lost those fish, even though I had one hook point in them. So it all kind of plays in
What
together.
gear ratio do you like?
6.3 to 1. Unless, and this is going to sound totally ass backwards, in the spring. And I don't know why, but when we're out there and even though we're fishing really, really slow, I like having that high speed reel because typically we're dealing with the wind and it's always kind of doing weird things with the jerkbait. So sometimes you have to pull up more slack a little bit faster just to be more efficient. Even though I'm not moving the bait any faster, I want to pull up all that slack a lot quicker and twitch. And even though those fish are biting slow, more often than not, they hit it, I can feel it, and they don't always go the other way. They like to come at me. And usually they just got one little bit of the trouble. So it's like pull up a lot of line really quick and then lean into it. And usually you could just literally crank into them to set the hook too. Those hooks are sharp, man. They're sticky. But yeah, no,
You
it's
pretty much covered the whole thing. What would your ratio be?
Gear ratio?
Yeah.
I use 7 to 1 because
7 to 1?
when you're with a jerkbait, you're not moving the bait with the reel. So
No.
I want one. For me, I want one that's faster so that I can, when one does bite it, and if it runs toward me, I can pick up the slack really quick.
I use the Lose Hyper Mag 8.5 to 1 because
Makes
why
sense.
the hell not?
It makes sense.
The faster the better, I feel, with jerkbaits.
Makes sense.
drop that. Mark had really good one. Do you guys alter your jerkbait setups from spring to fall? I think I actually kind of covered that. Is there anything you guys do differently from what I talked about?
I mean,
I
setup, do you mean the rod and reel?
Don't. I just find a different jerkbait that suits what I'm throwing. But if I was to, I would swap out the hooks for heavier hooks in the spring.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. Do you mean alter the jerkbait itself, or do you mean alter the rod and reel that we're throwing it on?
I would say all encompassing.
No, would it be fall?
No, fall, you want the heavier hooks.
Yes, fall. Sorry, because you want to level them out. Or you could use heavier line. Because I've been using 12 pound now for probably 2 years. And I really love it.
Yep.
So
There is one thing I forgot to mention. I talked about having two rods for the whole range, and I only talked about one rod. The other one is the Douglas X Matrix 704M. So it's a 7 foot. Is it the 704M? Yeah. 7 foot medium moderate rod. And I friggin' love that. It's not quite as soft as that luge rod that I have. And that's where I really like it, especially for cranking. If I'm throwing like a KVD 2.5 or any crankbait that dives down to 8 feet or deeper, something that's got a little bit more weight behind it, I got a lot more confidence hucking it with that rod where it's got just a teensy bit more backbone. But then especially for the 110+2, like I was much more confident throwing on that rod than it was my luge rod. And it's just kind of all balance with a 110 and a 110+1 on that luge rod. You go to load it up to bomb it for 150+ foot cast, and it just feels right the whole way through. You do that same rod on a 110+2, and it just doesn't feel like safe. And I go to that Douglas X Matrix 704M, and it's just like that 110+2, just load it up and bomb the thing, and it just feels perfectly balanced and not. No danger of being overloaded at any point throughout that whole cast. Try to think for anything else that would change from spring to fall. I did touch upon that where in the spring I will typically throw a heavier line to compensate for a floating jerkbait. But other than that, that's really the only difference. And then the rest of the year I just stick to a 6.3 to 1.
Yeah. On the jerkbait itself, the only thing I would add is like if your jerkbait's rising, or sometimes you may want your jerkbait to sink too. There is an aspect of triggering a bite where if you're fishing above fish, rather than having your jerkbait suspend or having it rise slowly, if you're moving it and then you stop and it kind of slowly sinks down onto those fish, what I do is I take like soldering wire and wrap just a little tiny bit around one of my hooks on the jerkbait, like usually the front hook, and that will just kind of weigh it down really slowly.
It works. He does it.
Seago's Angler. Any good smelt colored jerk baits?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, tons of them.
Yeah. My favorite one is Matte Shed. Mega Bass Matte Shed is really, really good, especially if it's any sort of windy or cloudy or overcast. If you're in a little bit sunnier conditions, then my favorite color is OSP makes it. It's called Ghost Minnow. It's very clear. The ones that I use actually don't have blue. Like the smelt that, at least the smelt on like Winnipesaukee, the ones that I've seen them cough up, I know that they do look blue sometimes in the water, but like they're usually like ghost minnow colored almost. So I try to stick with those.
Andrew, you're up. I'm literally just trying to find the color that I want to talk about.
Smelt colored?
Smelt colored.
I think you have it over there.
This one?
Is it?
No.
This one?
No.
No, you don't have it.
The only spot.
This one?
Possibly.
That's the one.
This one?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
wait, that one? Eleggy bone?
Eleggy bone.
Smelt?
Oh,
For
it's
smallies?
for smelt.
For smelt.
Smelt. Like
Oh.
a smelt imitator.
Oh, God.
You thought we were catching smelt on the... I don't know what's going on here.
Smallies. I thought we were talking about smallies for smelt. Smelt, smallies.
It still doesn't add.
I don't know the colors of these things, man. There's like 1,000 different colors on Mega Bass.
Do we have one out that you could point to?
I like this one.
That's the one that I said.
Yeah, see? That one's perfect.
See?
Wait, did Jackal get rid of
Yeah, they hate you.
the squad minnow?
That one looks good.
Yeah.
Well, the one that you have looks like it's 15 years old.
Dude, it's old. It literally probably is 15 years old. It might actually be older than that. Not even kidding. And that's what I was going to look through to see if I can't find it. If I could see the name of it, man, it would really remind me of what it was.
Let's
Right
continue
there,
with
Blue
the
Pearl
questions.
Shad.
I think that's
That
what it
looks
is. Blue Pearl
frickin'
Shad.
Awesome.
But that'd be the Jackal re-range. That's a really good one. There's another one from Lucky Craft, and it might be their Ito Shiner. It's not the Arkansas Shiner. It's not the one that has yellow on it. Oh man. And then there's that one from Mega Bass that you're holding down there with that kind of purpley tail. The big one, the 110 plus
This one?
2 that Andrew has. Yeah, I think you have the same one in your hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With the
Wakasagi.
Wakasagi.
Yeah.
That, anything like that, like kind of translucent, but like a little darker in the translucency with black back. Like perfect. Anything you can find like that, phenomenal. Oh, that's a good question. I gotta throw that back on there. Andrew had color for smallmouth and color for largemouth.
Oh, maybe that was the one that I saw.
Well, you can start with that then. Favorite color for smallmouth?
Smallmouth? Pretty much anything smelt, or I hate to say it, perch, even though I never throw it.
But unless I'm out fishing him, but when I'm knocking on the door of being about 10 fish ahead of him, then the yellow perch gets tied on.
It does. It does. That and
Which is rare.
largemouth is that Wakasagi. I love it. I love that color. Or really anything that looks like white perch or golden shiner. Those are pretty much my favorite colors for largemouth.
Mm-hmm.
You?
Western Clown for both.
For both?
I've caught many 6-pound smallmouth on it, and I've caught several 8-pound largemouth on it. I do also, specifically for largemouth, I do also like the Wakasagi color that Andrew's looking at, or Tennessee shad. They're basically the same color, but for largemouth, those are really good too. But Western Clown is always where I start, pretty much for either species in the spring. It's always my first one.
This bill's about to break. Wouldn't be surprised. It's not, dude. When we throw jerk baits, we throw them. We beat the piss out of them. For me, largemouth first, yellow perch and GP Pro Blue, which I think it's the GP Pro Blue 2, and that blue in colder water, darker stained water. Like, dude, especially early in the year, like right after ice out, a couple weeks when we're down there chasing them down in Cape Cod area all winter, like that is my best color. And right behind it in those same conditions, anything yellow perch, but especially that kind of ghosty yellow perch. And then like the rest of the year, yellow perch. And like bar none, I've caught the vast majority of my fish on it. Granted, I fish that more than any other color, It's just really hard to beat a yellow perch pattern on a jerkbait when you're going after largemouth. And then for smallmouth, I'm going to say the Wakasagi or Elegee Bone. Either one of those, like, you can't go wrong. If I had to pick two, one for each of those, I would go yellow perch and I would go Elegee Bone. Because the Elegee Bone, like really stained water, any time of the year excels. In really clear water, when you're trying to fire him up, largemouth or smallmouth, doesn't matter. It excels. There's something about that color that just works really, really well no matter where you go. And Kevin, to use the sweeping motion on the +2, straight reel and twitch don't really go that deep for me. Sweeping motion for setting the hook, yeah, but I tend to get a little more vigorous on it because
I think might be working it down.
I think he's been getting it down. Yeah, you should reel it down to the depth and then you fish it like a
The
jerkbait.
slower you reel it, the faster it goes down.
Yeah, reel it really slow to get it down to depth and then fish it like a jerkbait.
I
It'll
find
still
that to
go
do the same thing with
deeper.
the +1.
Yeah.
Where you got to start reeling it really slowly a little bit, and that kind of levels it out and gets it nose down and tracking that way. And it's usually like 5 or 6, turns on the handle, and then I can just kind of lightly twitch, and that gets a really nice cutting dance out of it. That's not like really extravagant.
Mm-hmm.
That day we were out there this spring where you caught the 7.9 a couple of years ago, place you always like to go. You always beat the piss out of those poor trout.
I do love that place.
When we were there, you guys hammered all the largemouth,
Yeah.
and we hammered all the smallmouth.
Yeah.
And the 110 +1 was it. And it was literally that. Like, even when we were fishing in a spot where I was getting that thing down to within inches of the bottom, still had to just 5 or 6 slow cranks into it to kind of get it going, nose down, and starting to go downhill. And then just a couple of slow twitches to get it down. And once it got down to like about 8 feet, then it would suspend out. But that water was cold that time. I think it was... What was it?
It was in the very low 40s.
I was gonna say, I think it was like 42 to 43 for the most part. And then it would get going. Same thing with 110 +2.
That was a good day.
That was a phenomenal day. Pro Blue 2 with orange on the belly is solid. Yeah, Mark, it's spot on. It's just such a solid freaking color. Can't go wrong with any of those. All right, so Dan Nickerson, another one. What is the difference between +1 and +2?
Depth. One of them goes down, I think the +1 goes down like 9 feet to 10 feet around that. And the +2 will go down to almost 15 feet, maybe 16, depending on your line.
If you're daring enough to throw it on an 8-pound, you can get it down 16 to 18 feet from what a few friends have told me. But
8 pounds plenty.
For you, I'm scared.
I was thinking,
It's the cast that makes me nervous.
you do cast crazy. Yeah.
With lighter line, all you really got to do is flick it.
Yeah.
It's not
I
like a
casting
full
far.
You cast far with 8-pound line, no matter what.
I know. Dude, I forget where we were. It wasn't this past weekend. I think it was the weekend before. Then we were working. Oh, yeah, I can't remember where the hell we were. We were working along the shoreline, and we were working up close, like getting towards the shore of the docks. And I saw the dock. I was like, I bet I can hit it. And 175 feet away,
Easily.
half-ounce jig, threw it up and got it to land under the dock for an overhead cast from that
Impressive.
distance.
I did that with a
Better than catching a fish.
I did that with my 9-inch bull glide this past weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, it scared the crap out of me. I'm watching it go. Mickey's letting that go too far.
Nah, it's gone. I'm just gonna let it go.
send it.
Empty that spool.
I told you that Champlain fished the BFL day after it got canceled. We went and fished Brownie Factory. And I worked that whole shoreline, like, I don't know, was it 1,500 feet ashore? Through nothing but my 9-inch glide. Like, I really, really, really tried. I threw it on a dock.
Oh, did you lose it?
No, the funniest thing, because it was like, slat boards, all slats, and they had like a 1/4-inch space. It bounced from wherever it hit back 2 feet, literally, because I had to get on the dock to get it. It was literally, without over-exaggerating or overusing the word, literally the only 2 boards that had a non-uniform gap like the rest of the boards. And it was a C hair wider than my treble hook, which is a C hair wider than my glide.
Oh, so it went down in?
One hopped right through the slot. So
It was meant to be.
they're lifting up. Dunk, dunk, dunk. I'm like, wow. So I had to get out on the dock and I had to like very carefully like pull it up and grab the nose and like slide it through perfectly. Because I mean, I see here difference. It, only I could do something stupid
It's
like
impressive.
that.
It's very impressive. Yeah.
Even worse, I was only like 30 feet from the dock too, and I was trying to like kind of underhand pitch it, and it just went too far. Just clunk. Like, oh,
That's
makes
why I
up for
like
your
those
jig
Douglas
cast.
rods, because you can literally hold it and just do that, and it'll just sling the bait wherever the hell you want it to go.
that's the 6 to 14 ounce model. What is that? The 807F, something like that, or is it the 80?
It's the 807 X.
Their model.
It might be the 807XF.
Yes.
Very confusing.
So 8 feet, 7 is the power. Anything in that third digit. So 1 through 7, 7 being,
It's like Dobbins.
you know what? I think it's an
I
806.
don't like their naming either.
It's the
They
806.
should name it Jig Rod. Big Jig Rod.
Biggest jig rod. And glide baits.
But yeah, no, it took me a while to get used to. But once you kind of figure it out, it like totally makes sense. You can just look at the model really quick. You know the exact length and the power on it. So it works. Sorry, power and action.
Oh.
It's like 704M. 7 foot, 4 is medium, M is moderate.
Oh.
MF is motherfucker.
I want that one.
Well, it's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, the Samuel L. Jackson model. All right. For anybody that was here for jigs, I greatly apologize. I truly did not anticipate that just jerkbaits was going to take an hour, just shy of it at this point. But you know what? I'm glad that we were able to go through it without cutting ourselves short from any aspect of that. And then trying to shortchange you guys on the jig stuff. So we'll save all the jig stuff for next week for Andrew's last show before he moves. And yeah, that'll be good. And it'll probably take just as long to cover the jig stuff next week. So again, apologies for only covering the jerkbait. Chris, also apologies because you're going to have to make a new thumbnail for not only this show, but then also next week. But at the same time, you already have everything you need, so it kind of simplifies things. So you're welcome. Other than that, thank you all for being here tonight. There's nothing else we could or should be able to elaborate on. That was awesome. You guys did phenomenal. Good job.
Good job, Andrew.
Thanks. Good job, Dennis.
You guys did awesome because you brought a ton of awesome questions for us. Chat engagement was amazing tonight. Loved it. That's what we like to see. That's honestly my favorite part about doing very specific topics like this, is because it gives you guys much more of a chance to get involved, be heard, and for us to directly address a bunch of your comments and questions. Versus like some other topics, it doesn't quite work out that well, which is why we try to work in more of like, just the open question nights or open forum, whatever the hell we call it. Even I don't remember how we call it because we haven't done it in a little while. So more than anything, hope that was very, very helpful for everybody. If you haven't done so before you go, please leave a like, whether you're watching here on YouTube or Facebook. Aside from that, I think that's everything.
We will see you guys next week, as always, for my last week.
Oh.
Take notes. You're taking over on this.
I'm just going to say bye.
That's what I always do. I start. See ya. We'll see you guys next week, as always, at youtube.com/@ReelNorthernBass at 8 p.m. Eastern every week. See you later. Have a good night.
Everybody have a wonderful night. Adios.